They say the best revenge is living well. They're wrong. The best revenge is making sure the person who broke you watches every single moment of your happiness from the outside, pressed against the glass of a life they were never invited into. The best revenge is becoming so untouchable that their regret curdles into obsession. The best revenge is silence, not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally realize they aren't worth the breath it would take to scream. I learned that in the months after I walked away from Park Ji-woon. I didn't plan to destroy him. That's the truth, whether anyone believes it or not. When I left his family's estate that afternoon, when I drove 3 hours through fading autumn light with nothing but the hollow echo of his voice in my ears, I'll handle him privately. I wasn't thinking about revenge. I wasn't thinking about anything except survival. One breath, then another, then another. The most basic arithmetic of staying alive when every cell in your body is screaming to just stop. But survival has a funny way of reshaping you. The first month was the hardest. I won't pretend it wasn't. I moved back to my family's estate because I had nowhere else to go. And my mother's careful, pitying glances became the background radiation of my existence. She never said "I told you so." She didn't have to. Her silence was eloquent enough, the way she looked at me like I was something broken that might still be repaired. If only I would stop fighting the obvious solution. "The Park family has reached out," she said one evening, setting a cup of tea beside me that I wouldn't drink. "Ji-woon's mother. She wants to discuss options." I didn't respond. "No, you can't hide forever." I looked at her then, really looked, and for the first time in my life, I saw her clearly, not as my mother, but as a woman who had spent her entire existence navigating the same currents I was drowning in. She had been married off to my father for alliance. She had learned to survive by being useful, agreeable, and visible in all the ways that mattered. She wanted me to do the same. "I'm not hiding," I said. My voice sounded strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. "I'm deciding." "Deciding what?" "Whether I'm going to be you," I thought. "Whether I'm going to spend the rest of my life performing gratitude for scraps. Whether I'm going to let them win." I didn't say any of that. Instead, I stood up, left the tea untouched, and went to my room. I sat on the edge of my bed, the same bed where I'd slept as a child, dreaming of Park Ji-woon, memorizing his preferences, writing letters I never sent. I looked at the photograph on my nightstand. Ji-woon and me, years ago, before everything curdled, his arm around my shoulder, my smile so bright it hurt to remember. I picked up the frame. I didn't throw it. I didn't smash it. I just turned it face down. A small gesture, almost nothing. But something shifted in me that night. Something that had been sleeping, waiting, gathering strength in the dark. I wasn't going to be my mother. I wasn't going to be the Omega who accepted a place instead of a heart. I wasn't going to be Park Ji-woon's convenient secret, his public placeholder, his almost. I was going to become someone he couldn't afford to lose. And then I was going to make sure he watched me walk away anyway. The second month was strategy. I didn't have money. I didn't have connections independent of my family's name. I didn't have anything, except 22 years of being trained to be someone's perfect partner in the bitter, burning knowledge that I had been very, very good at it. So I used what I had. My family's name opened doors. My reputation as Park Ji-woon's abandoned fiancé, because that's what the whispers called me. Abandoned, not escaped, made people curious, sympathetic, willing to listen to the poor little amiga who had been so publicly humiliated. I let them think I was broken. I let them underestimate me. I attended charity events in simple clothes and spoke softly about finding my footing and focusing on personal growth. I smiled when alphas patted my hand and told me I was handling things so bravely. I nodded when older Omegas advised me to be patient, to wait, to understand that these things happen. All the while, I was watching, learning, mapping the invisible architecture of power that I had never needed to understand before, because I had always assumed Ji-woon would handle it for me. I discovered something interesting during those weeks. I was good at this. Not the social performance. Any Omega with decent breeding could do that. I was good at the real game, the one happening beneath the polite conversation and the champagne flutes. I could read a room in seconds. I could identify the person with real power versus the person with a title. I could see the cracks in alliances, the unspoken resentments, the opportunities hiding in plain sight. Ji-woon had never noticed this about me. He had seen me as soft, gentle, emotionally dependent, the Omega who needed protection, the Omega who would wait. He had no idea that the person who waits is also the person who watches. And watching for 22 years teaches you things. I found my opening at a charity gala hosted by the Kong family. Old money, new ambitions. A daughter who needed a respectable Omega companion for her social calendar. Not a romance, a partnership. Someone polished enough to elevate her image, discreet enough not to cause problems, and grateful enough to accept terms that favored her. I was perfect for the role. Kang Min-seo was an alpha in her early 30s, sharp-eyed and sharp-tongued, with no interest in romance and every interest in power. She looked at me across a crowded room and saw exactly what I was offering: competence disguised as compliance. "You're Park Ji-woon's discard," she said when we were introduced. "Not cruel, just factual. I prefer to think of it as his loss," I replied. Her eyebrows rose, just slightly, just enough. "Interesting," she said. "Come to my office tomorrow. We'll talk." I went. We talked. By the end of the week, I had a position not as her companion, because I refused to be anyone's accessory ever again, but as a strategic consultant for her family's foundation. The salary was modest, the title was vague, but the access was invaluable. And Kang Min-seo, whatever else she was, kept her word. "You work for me," she said on my first day. "Not my family, not anyone else. You report to me, and I protect you. That's the deal." "That's the deal," I agreed. She studied me for a moment. "He's going to come looking for you eventually. You know that, right? Not because he wants you back, because he can't stand the idea of you being okay without him." "I know, and when he does," I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "I'll be ready." The third month was when everything accelerated. I had been careful to avoid Ji-woon. Not difficult, our circles overlapped, but he was busy managing the fallout from the engagement celebration disaster. The whispers had become louder. "Did you hear? His mate Bond activated for someone else, right in front of his fiancée. And now the Omega left him." The scandal was delicious, and the powerful families who had once courted his favor were now watching to see if he would recover or collapse. I didn't cause the collapse. That's important to understand. Ji-woon's downfall was already in motion, set into place by his own choices and the unforgiving machinery of our world. He had built his reputation on control, on being the alpha who never made mistakes, who always knew exactly what he was doing. Finding out that his own instincts had betrayed him, that fate itself had chosen someone else for him, shattered the illusion. His business partners grew cautious. His political allies found excuses to distance themselves. His mother called my mother 3 more times, each conversation more urgent than the last. I ignored all of it, because during the third month, I met Kang Do-yeon. I didn't meet him at a gala or a charity event or any of the polished spaces where our world performed itself. I met him in a back corridor of the Kang Foundation building at 11 o'clock at night, when I was leaving after 16 hours of work, and he was arriving for reasons I didn't understand. He was tall. That was my first thought. Tall and dark and still, in a way that alphas rarely were. Not the stillness of control, but the stillness of someone who had nothing to prove. His suit was expensive, but unremarkable. His face was handsome, but not beautiful. His eyes stopped me. They were the color of winter storms, gray and silver and utterly, terrifyingly aware. He looked at me like he already knew everything about me, like he had been watching me long before I noticed him. "Choi Hyun," he said. Not a question. I stopped walking. My Omega instincts prickled, not with fear, but with attention. Something about this alpha demanded it. "I'm sorry," I said carefully. "Have we met?" "No." He tilted his head slightly. "But I know who you are. Everyone in our world knows who you are now. The abandoned fiancé." The words hung unspoken between us. "Then you have me at a disadvantage," I said, keeping my voice even. "You know my name, but I don't know yours." Kang Do-yeon. The name meant something. I searched my memory, sorting through the mental catalog I had been building. Kang. There were several Kang families, but only one that mattered, the one that controlled the shipping routes, the one that had been quietly consolidating power for 3 generations, the one that everyone respected and no one crossed. "You're Min-seo's cousin," I realized. "Second cousin. On my mother's side." His mouth curved slightly. "Not quite a smile. She speaks highly of you. That's rare for her." "I work hard." "I know. I've been watching." The words should have alarmed me. Instead, they made something in my chest tight, not with fear, but with a strange, unfamiliar anticipation. "Watching," I repeated. "You were wasted on Park Ji-woon." His voice was matter of fact. No flirtation, no seduction, just observation. He had someone brilliant beside him for years and never saw it. That's not just cruel. It's stupid. I felt my breath catch. No one had ever said that to me. Not once. In 22 years, not a single person had looked at me and seen brilliant. They had seen soft, gentle, loyal, a good Omega, a suitable partner, a convenient arrangement. They had never seen me. "Thank you," I said. The words came out rougher than I intended. "It's not a compliment, it's a fact." He stepped aside, clearing the corridor. "You should go home, Choi Hyun. It's late." "But before you do," I waited. "I don't pretend." His voice was low, steady. If you ever want to work with someone who sees what you actually are, come find me. I don't make promises I can't keep, and I don't offer things I don't mean. He walked past me, disappearing into the darkened office at the end of the hall. I stood there for a long time, my heart beating fast, my Omega instincts humming with something I hadn't felt in years. Interest, not dependence, not desperation, not the hollow need to be chosen that had defined my entire relationship with Ji-woon. Just interest. The 4th month was when Ji-woon finally came looking for me. I was at a gallery opening one of Minseo's events, a carefully curated gathering of people who mattered. I was there as her consultant, hovering at the edges, taking mental notes on conversations and alliances. I had gotten very good at being invisible while seeing everything. Ji-woon walked in like he still owned every room he entered. My body recognized him before my mind did. The familiar scent cedar and rain, the scent I had built my life around, hit me like a physical blow. My Omega instincts lurched, reaching toward him automatically before I forced them down. I stayed where I was. I didn't run. I didn't hide. I just watched. He looked different, tired. The confident ease I remembered was fraying at the edges. His suit was still impeccable, his posture still perfect, but there was a tension in his shoulders, a tightness around his eyes that hadn't been there before. He was looking for someone. He was looking for me. Our eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither of us moved. The noise of the gallery faded to a distant hum. I saw his expression shift: relief, then confusion, then something that looked almost like hunger. He started toward me. Hyun, my name in his mouth, the same way he'd always said it. Soft, careful, like I was something fragile he needed to handle gently. I used to melt when he said my name like that. Now I just felt cold. Ji-woon-si. Formal, distant. The way you address a stranger. He flinched. You've been avoiding me. I've been living my life. That's not the same thing. Your mother said. My mother says many things. She doesn't speak for me. He stared at me. I could see him recalibrating, trying to find the angle that would work. This wasn't the Hyun he knew. The Hyun he knew would have softened by now, would have shown some crack in the facade, would have given him something to work with. I gave him nothing. You're acting strange, he said finally. This isn't like you. You don't know what I'm like. My voice was calm. Even. You never did. You knew what I could do for you. That's not the same thing. His jaw tightened. That's not fair. Fair. He kept using that word. Like fairness was something he was entitled to. Like the scales of our relationship had ever been balanced. We need to talk, he said, privately. No. The word landed like a slap. I watched him process at the surprise, the disbelief, the slow dawning realization that I wasn't playing hard to get. I was simply done. Hyun, I'm working. Ji-woon-si. This is a professional event. If you have something to discuss regarding business, you can contact the Kong Foundation through proper channels. His eyes narrowed. You're working for Kong Minseo? Yes. Since when? Since I decided to stop waiting for someone who was never going to choose me. The words hung between us. Raw. Honest. Irrevocable. He opened his mouth, closed it. For the first time in all the years I'd known him, Park Ji-woon had nothing to say. I turned and walked away. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. But I didn't look back. I didn't give him the satisfaction of seeing how much that conversation had cost me. I walked through the gallery, past the beautiful people and the expensive art and the life I had once thought I wanted, and I kept walking until I reached the back corridor where the staff entrance was. I leaned against the wall, breathed, counted to 10. You did it, I told myself. You faced him, and you didn't break. It didn't feel like victory. Not yet, but it felt like something. The 5th month was when everything shifted permanently. Kang Do-yeon found me again. Not by accident this time. He requested a meeting through Minseo's office. Formal and proper, and completely unexpected. We met at a tea house in the old district. Private room. Paper screens. The soft sound of water somewhere. He was already there when I arrived, sitting with perfect stillness, watching the door like he had been waiting for exactly this moment. You came, he said. You asked? I did. He gestured to the cushion across from him. Sit, please. I sat. The tea was already poured to cups, steam rising in delicate curls. You've been avoiding Park Ji-woon, he said. Not a question. I've been living my life. He happens not to be in it. He lifted his cup, inhaled the fragrance, took a slow sip. He's been asking about you. Through intermediaries. He wants to know who you're seeing, where you're going, what you're doing. My stomach tightened. And you know this because his intermediaries came to me. Do-yeon's gray eyes met mine. He thinks I'm courting you. Are you? The question came out before I could stop it. Bold. Direct. Not at all like the careful Omega I had been trained to be. Do-yeon's mouth curved. Just slightly. Just enough. I'm interested in you, he said. I've been interested since the first time I saw you. At a park family event 3 years ago. You were standing beside Ji-woon, invisible to everyone except the people who mattered. And I watched you redirect a conversation that was about to become dangerous for him. Without anyone noticing what you'd done. I stared at him. I remembered that night. A business associate had been drinking too much, talking too freely about a deal that wasn't supposed to exist. I had steered him towards safer topics, laughing softly, playing the charming Omega companion. Ji-woon had never even thanked me. You noticed that, I said slowly. I notice everything. It's what I do. He set down his cup. I watched you for 3 years. Choi Hyun. I watched you give everything to a man who gave nothing back. I watched you make him look brilliant while he treated you like furniture. And I thought, what a waste. What a spectacular waste of someone extraordinary. My throat tightened. Why are you telling me this? Because I don't pretend. His voice was low, intense. I told you that the first time we met. I'm not going to promise you romance or devotion or any of the pretty lies alphas tell omegas to get what they want. But I can promise you honesty. I can promise you respect. I can promise you that if you stand beside me, everyone will know exactly who you are and exactly what you're worth. And what do you get out of this? You simple, direct. Not your body. Not your submission. You. Your mind. Your strategy. Your ability to see things others miss. I'm building something. Hyun. Something that will change the balance of power in our world. I need someone beside me who sees clearly. Someone who isn't afraid of the dark. I'm not afraid of the dark, I said quietly. I've been living in it for years. I know. His eyes held mine. That's why I want you. The tea grew cold between us. I thought about Ji-woon. About 7 years of being invisible. About the engagement celebration, the mate revelation. The offer to keep me as a convenience. About the way he had looked at me in the gallery like I was something he'd misplaced. Not someone he'd destroyed. I thought about my mother, who had taught me that survival meant accepting less than I deserved. I thought about all the Omegas who came before me, who had smiled and nodded and made themselves small, because the alternative was being alone. I thought about the person I was becoming, the person who walked away, the person who said no. Okay, I said. Do-yeon's eyebrow rose. Okay. I'm not promising you forever. I'm not promising you love. I'm not promising you anything except that I'll show up and do the work. I met his eyes. But if you're offering honesty and respect, real honesty, real respect, then I'm willing to try. His expression shifted. Something warm flickered in those winter storm eyes. I don't need forever, he said. I just need now. The rest will take care of itself. He reached across the table, not to touch me, just to rest his hand on the wood, palm up, an offering. I placed my hand in his. His fingers closed around mine. Warm, steady, real. Outside, the city hummed with all the lives being lived, all the stories unfolding. Inside the tea house, something new began. The 6th month was the public reckoning. Minseo's foundation was hosting its annual gala, the biggest event of the social calendar. The one everyone attended whether they wanted to or not. I had helped plan it. Every detail, every guest list decision, every strategic seating arrangement. Ji-woon was invited. Of course he was. Excluding him would have been a statement. And Minseo didn't make statements without purpose. The purpose became clear when Kang Do-yeon walked in with me on his arm. Not as a date, not as a romantic partner, as an equal, a collaborator, someone whose presence beside him was a declaration. The whispers started before we reached the center of the room. Is that Choi Hyun? With Kang Do-yeon? But wasn't he engaged to Park Ji-woon? What happened to the Park engagement? Did you hear about the mate bond? I heard every word. I let them wash over me like water. Do-yeon's hand rested at the small of my back. Light, unpossessive, but unmistakably present. I can feel you shaking, he murmured. I'm not shaking. Your Omega is. It's okay. This is hard. I looked up at him, at this dangerous, honest alpha who had seen me clearly from the beginning, at the person who had offered me partnership instead of ownership. It's not hard, I said. It's necessary. He nodded once, said nothing else. We moved through the room together. I introduced him to people he needed to know. He introduced me to people who needed to know me, not as an accessory, not as a companion, as Choi Hyun, strategic consultant, rising power, someone to watch. Ji-woon arrived an hour into the event. I felt him before I saw him. The shift in the room's energy, the way conversations paused and eyes darted toward the entrance. My Omega recognized his sense eater and Rain, the ghost of everything I used to want, and I forced myself to stay still. He saw me immediately, saw Do-yeon beside me, saw Do-yeon's hand on my back, saw the way people were looking at us, not with pity, but with interest, respect, calculation. His expression flickered. Shock. then disbelief, then something darker, something that looked almost like rage. He crossed the room toward us. Hyun. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the strain beneath it. We need to talk. We talked last month, Ji-woon-si. I believe I was clear. This is different. His eyes cut to Do-hyun. Privately. Do-hyun didn't move, didn't speak, just stood beside me, a wall of calm in the storm of Ji-woon's agitation. Anything you need to say to me can be said in front of my partner, I said. The word partner hit Ji-woon like a physical blow. I watched him absorb at the implications, the permanence, the complete reversal of everything he had assumed about me. Your partner, he repeated. Yes. Since when? Since I decided to stop waiting for someone to choose me. I met his eyes, held them. You made your choice, Ji-woon-si. You chose Seo-jin. You chose to keep me as a convenience. You chose to offer me a place instead of a heart. And I chose to walk away. The room had gone quiet around us. I was aware of eyes on us, ears straining to catch every word. Good. Let them hear. This isn't like you, Ji-woon said. His voice was rough, desperate. You don't do things like this. You don't make scenes. You don't know what I do. My voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. You never did. You knew the version of me that was convenient for you. The version that waited. The version that accepted whatever scraps you deigned to give. But that version died the moment you told me you would handle Seo-jin privately while keeping me as your public placeholder. His face went pale. I'm not your placeholder anymore. I continued. I'm not your secret. I'm not your convenience. I'm not yours at all. Hyun, you didn't lose me to fate. Ji-woon. I said the words I had been holding for months. The words that had been growing in the dark, waiting for this moment. You lost me the moment you thought I'd stay even after you replaced me. The silence was absolute. Ji-woon stared at me. His composure, that famous, impenetrable composure, was gone. In its place was something raw, something wounded, something that might have been regret if I believed he was capable of it. I was going to choose you eventually, he said. Quiet, almost pleading. After everything settled, after the alliance was secure, I was always going to come back to you. I looked at him, at this alpha I had loved for 22 years, at the face I had memorized, the voice I had lived for, the future I had built my entire identity around, and I felt nothing. That was your mistake, I said. You thought I would wait. You thought I had nowhere else to go. You thought I was so desperate to be chosen that I would accept being your second choice, your backup plan, your almost. I stepped closer, close enough that only he could hear my next words. I chose myself first, and I will never, ever choose you again. I turned around. Do-hyun's hand found mine. Solid, warm, real. We walked away together. Behind us, the whispers erupted. Ji-woon stood frozen in the center of the room, surrounded by people who had just watched his carefully constructed world collapse for the second time. I didn't look back. Epilogue. The 7th month. Seo-jin came to see me once. Just once. He looked different, older, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. The easy confidence I remembered was gone, replaced by something heavier, something sadder. I'm not going to apologize, he said. We were sitting in my new office, the one with the river view, the one that was mine. Apologies don't mean anything when the damage is already done. But I need you to know something. I waited. I rejected him. His voice was steady. The bond, the connection, whatever fate decided we were supposed to be to each other. I told him no. I hadn't expected that. Why? Because I watched what he did to you. Seo-jin's eyes met mine. I watched him offer you a cage and call it protection. I watched him minimize your pain and call it logic. I watched him expect you to accept being his secret while he built a public life with me. And I realized if he could do that to someone he'd known his entire life, someone who had given him everything, what would he do to me when I stopped being convenient? I said nothing. I'm not you, Hyun. His voice cracked slightly. I don't have your strength. I don't have your patience. I would have broken in half the first time he looked at me like I was an asset instead of a person. So I walked away. Where will you go? Somewhere no one knows my name. He smiled. It was sad and brave and beautiful. Somewhere I can figure out who I am without anyone telling me. I reached across the desk, took his hand. Thank you, I said quietly, for telling me. Thank you, he replied, for showing me it was possible. He left. I watched him go, this amigo who had been my best friend, my accidental rival, my mirror in so many ways. I hoped he found what he was looking for. I hoped we both did. The city was beautiful from Do-hyun's penthouse. We stood at the window together, watching the lights flicker across the river. The distant hum of a world that never really slept. His arm was around my waist. Light, unpossessive, but present. I don't promise forever, he said. I know. I don't promise it will be easy. I know that too. He turned to look at me. Winter storm eyes. Dangerous honesty. Then what do you want, Choi Hyun? I thought about Ji-woon. About 7 years of being invisible. About the promise I had believed since childhood. The future I had built my entire identity around. The moment I had watched it all collapse in a ballroom full of witnesses. I thought about the person I had been. The person I was becoming. The person I would be tomorrow and the day after. And the day after that. I don't need forever, I said. I just need honesty. Respect. A partner who sees me clearly and doesn't flinch. His hand tightened on my waist. Just slightly. Just enough. You have that, he said. You've always had that. You just had to stop looking for it in the wrong person. I leaned into him. Not because I needed to. Not because my Omega instincts demanded it. Because I wanted to. Because for the first time in my life, I was choosing not being chosen. I was building, not waiting. I was living, not surviving. The city stretched out before us. Bright and endless and full of possibilities I had never allowed myself to imagine. Park Ji-woon was somewhere out there, dealing with the wreckage of his choices. Learning, perhaps, what it meant to lose something he had never valued until it was gone. I didn't wish him ill. I didn't wish him well. I just didn't think about him at all. That was the real revenge. Not destruction. Not humiliation. Not making him regret breathing the same air. Just freedom. The quiet, absolute freedom of no longer caring what he thought, what he felt, what he wanted. I had been promised to him since childhood, but I belonged to myself, and that was enough. That was everything.